Welcome back to the days. Today we will learn about the issue shaking Salem as a new job, a brewing mystery, and a fragile family dynamic collide just as August 27, 2025 spoilers point to seismic shifts for Sophia, Rachel, Steve, and Brady. Big picture. Sophia steps into a fresh gig that looks ordinary on the surface but is laced with motive and misdirection, while Rachel gravitates toward the warmest, safest arms in town during a painful moment that reopens old scars and old allegiances. At the same time, Steve is positioned for a key break in the Titan DiMera saga when Brady brings a left-field theory that could redraw the battle lines across both families and their corporate empires. In the background, Kayla, Stephanie, and Alex juggle professional milestones with private complications, hinting at a PR rollout that could double as a power play, even as Sarah's instincts place her squarely in the crosshairs of Salem's most combustible secret. Sophia's adoption story. Steve and Brady's theory hour. Brady doesn't just confide, he hypothesizes, and his theory about Sophia's adoption trail has Steve peering into the kind of records that never want to be found, setting up a classic Salem manhunt through sealed files and suspicious timelines. The crux of Brady's suspicion hinges on inconsistencies around the baby's gender markers and a too-neat narrative that refuses to survive contact with fact-checking, the exact kind of breadcrumb Steve loves to follow. By carrying his suspicions to Steve instead of a public blow-up, Brady turns strategy into leverage, possibly giving Steve the missing piece to pry open the Titan DiMera mess, and by extension to test what the Kuryaki's wing is hiding in plain sight. Lunch with a reveal. When Steve and Kayla duck out for a quiet lunch, the universe of Salem serves irony on the house. Their server turns out to be a familiar face that folds domestic normalcy into the ongoing investigation thread. Kayla's calm becomes counsel as she nudges Steve on boundaries while still feeding him the contextual hints that only a chief of staff and mom can pick up, keeping him within ethical lines without blunting his edge. That contrast, Kayla's measured caution versus Steve's investigator's itch, frames the day's beat. Personal lives brushing right up against secret files and corporate intrigue. Stephanie and Alex's big release. The looming release tied to Stephanie and Alex is more than book tour fluff. It's an optics event that could reposition Titan's public narrative at a moment when internal fractures demand polish and persuasion. Stephanie's talent for messaging collides with Alex's need to appear composed and clean, and that tension hints at how quickly a celebratory rollout can boomerang if Steve lands proof linking past missteps to present agendas. Kayla's quiet suggestion to her daughter plays like a velvet glove. It's part career advice, part emotional triage, and it could be the soft pivot Stephanie needs to insulate herself from collateral splashback. Sophia clocks in. Sophia's new job at the bar reads like a normal teen hustle until the context drops. Tate and Holly run into her right as she's leaving, and the timing blows open her proximity motive. The job looks strategically placed, close enough to the Brady orbit for Sophia to monitor Tate's patterns, close enough to Salem's rumor mill to steer perception if she must, while also granting her a veneer of moving on. Expect sparks when past words are reinterpreted in the present. Holly is far from naive now, and Sophia's presence at the pub could be the fuse for the week's most combustible encounter. Tate and Holly, collision course. Their alone time ends with an unexpected twist. The sightline to Sophia, the implications of that bar shift, and a recognition that jealousy is about to become a plot engine again. Holly's recent posture, staking her claim and rejecting passivity, means she won't cede ground in silence, and that stance gives Tate a binary choice. De-escalate or ignite the triangle on camera and in public. The unexpected surprise teased for the pair likely rides on Sophia's next move and Brady's intel bleed, making romance and investigation two strands of the same rope this week. Rachel's comfort and a new mom echo. Rachel's return to familiarity is not just about a room or a mansion. It's about the gravitational pull of the black/DiMera orbit and whose embrace feels least conditional in a chaotic season. There's a misdirection at play. While both father and brother offer solace, it's Sarah's presence that pierces Rachel's defenses, positioning Sarah as the unlikely new mom figure whose steadiness disarms the child's grief. That warmth is complicated by Sarah's knowledge of Sophia's confession and the ethics that bind her. She carries truth without the permission to use it, and that paradox is precisely why Rachel trusts her. Sarah's tightrope. Sarah's involvement is a study in medical ethics meeting Salem chaos. She has heard enough to redraw loyalties, yet doctor-patient confidentiality locks the drawer on those revelations. The restraint frustrates everyone. Brady wants answers, Steve wants evidence, and Sarah wants to protect a child without betraying a confession. But that restraint is also what undergirds her credibility with Rachel. If there's a turning point this week, it may come through what Sarah can hint at rather than say outright, nudging key players to look in the right direction without breaking her oath. The Kuryaki's variable. Alex's arc intersects with Titan's image crisis and Steve's separate line of inquiry into Kuryaki's history. Old brushes with the law, new boardroom deals. Casts a long shadow over the PR glow. The question is stark. Can a public-facing rollout mask the rumble beneath? Or will Brady's theory and Steve's groundwork expose soft spots that competitors or DeMaras can exploit in a single news cycle? If Stephanie becomes the bridge between brand and reality, she may also become the leverage both sides want, which raises stakes for her personally and professionally. Sophia's past choices present stakes. Sophia's web, impulses, parental pressure, and a partnership with Melinda Trask has matured from teenage chaos into a structured scheme with moving parts, and the cost is starting to come due. Earlier missteps, Tate, Holly, and the emotional ricochet continue to color every glance and every rumor, making even a simple clock out at the pub a narrative trigger. If Melinda's fingerprints are anywhere on the adoption paperwork, Brady's nudge to Steve could untangle it, and the unraveling might pull Sophia's job, love life, and legal exposure into the same storm. Will Sarah accept Alex's apology? Apologies in Salem are rarely full stops. They're bargaining chips, and Alex's contrition will be measured against consistency and transparency, not just tone. Sarah, already burdened with confidential knowledge and a protective instinct for the vulnerable, is the least likely person to accept hollow amends without structural change, especially if Titan's turbulence puts patients or loved ones in the splash zone. If she yields at all, expect conditions. Boundaries around work, honesty about deals, and zero tolerance for spillover into family space. The surprise ahead. The unexpected surprise awaiting Tate and Holly reads as a convergence event, either a document, a sighting, or a confrontation that confirms their instincts about Sophia's proximity and intent. In a week where Steve hunts paper trails and Brady chases a gut feeling, the teen's discovery could become the emotional proof that spurs the adults into formal action. If that happens, the triangle becomes less about jealousy and more about discovery, shifting the plot from whispers to evidence. Final word. This stretch of episodes is engineered like a pressure cooker. A quiet lunch with a revealing server, a bar shift with an ulterior motive, a daughter's PR milestone doubling as a corporate shield, and a child seeking a mother's steadiness in the one doctor who can't speak freely yet refuses to look away. The fulcrum is simple but powerful. Brady's theory placed in Steve's hands, and if that theory holds, it could snap open the Titan DeMera case while simultaneously reframing Sophia's choices and Rachel's path to peace with a new mom figure who leads with ethics, not leverage. All roads in Salem this week curve toward exposure, and every whispered secret is one step from becoming a headline. Kristen DeMera's fate. Will she truly leave Salem after confessing to shooting EJ? For decades, Days of Our Lives has given viewers shocking twists, heartbreaking betrayals, and unexpected alliances. The DeMera family, with its endless scheming, power struggles, and tangled relationships, has always stood at the very center of Salem's storms. Now, once again, it is Kristen DeMera's turn to stand in the spotlight as fans passionately debate whether her latest confession means she will finally exit Salem for good. But is Kristen's departure truly on the horizon? Or is this just another cleverly written chapter in the life of a woman who has never played by anyone else's rules? The stunning confession. When Kristen DeMera, portrayed by Stacy Haidouk, recently admitted to shooting EJ DeMera, the revelation sent shockwaves through the community. Salem residents have grown accustomed to lies, cover-ups, and redemptions that come and go like the tides. But even for Kristen, this move was jaw-dropping. Why would she make such a confession? At first glance, it appears self-destructive. Yet Kristen has always been a woman who puts family above all else, even when her methods are twisted, manipulative, and downright criminal. In this case, her decision to confess wasn't about protecting herself, but about shielding her daughter, Rachel Black, from an unbearable truth. Protecting Rachel at all costs. Rachel, still young and impressionable, remembers something she wishes she could forget: seeing Johnny DiMera with a gun. In the chaos of the moment, she herself picked up the weapon. Overcome with fear and confusion, Rachel ended up pointing the gun at EJ. Before anyone could stop her, the gun fired, and EJ was struck. For any child, such a memory would be life-altering. For Rachel, the trauma of knowing she had harmed her own uncle could be devastating, leaving scars that would follow her for the rest of her life. Kristen understood this immediately. As flawed and dangerous as she may be, one thing is undeniable: Kristen loves her daughter fiercely. So, Kristen did what only a DiMera could do. She took the blame upon herself. By confessing to a crime she didn't commit, she believes she can spare Rachel from a lifetime of guilt, shame, and self-loathing. To Kristen, protecting Rachel's innocence is worth sacrificing her own freedom. Jail time, but not the end? After her confession, Kristen was sent to jail. For many characters on Days of Our Lives, this would signal a dramatic exit. Jail time often means an actor is being written out of storylines for weeks, months, or sometimes forever. Fans immediately began asking the big question: does this mean Kristen is leaving Salem? The short answer is no. Despite the prison bars, Kristen is not going anywhere just yet. Even behind walls, she remains a force in Salem. Writers have often used jail time as a way to keep characters simmering in the background, ready to return at full force when the time is right. Kristen's presence, though quieter for now, has not diminished. In fact, her time in prison may set the stage for a dramatic return, one that could shake the DiMera family and Salem itself to its core. Stacy Haidouk's future on the show. Part of the speculation about Kristen's future naturally revolves around actress Stacy Haidouk, who has masterfully portrayed the character in recent years. According to Parade, Haidouk has no plans to leave the show. This revelation reassures fans that Kristen's storyline is far from over. This is good news for longtime viewers, many of whom have watched Kristen evolve from a troubled woman into a cunning and calculating DiMera powerhouse. Haidouk's ability to bring both vulnerability and menace to the role ensures that Kristen remains one of Salem's most captivating figures. So while Kristen may currently be in jail, fans can rest easy knowing her story is not finished. If anything, this chapter may just be the calm before an even greater storm. Why Kristen won't stay behind bars for long. History tells us one thing clearly: Salem's jails do not hold the DiMeras for long. Whether through legal loopholes, last-minute evidence, or dramatic escapes, characters rarely remain locked up permanently. Kristen, with her intelligence, resourcefulness, and family connections, is especially unlikely to serve a long sentence. Viewers can expect some sort of twist to eventually set her free. Perhaps Rachel's memory will shift, revealing the truth in a way that clears Kristen's name. Or maybe another Salem power player will intervene, using their influence to secure her release. One thing is certain: Kristen will not sit quietly behind bars for long. What this means for Salem's future. Kristen's confession has already stirred drama in Salem, and her release will surely ignite even more. Imagine the fallout if EJ learns the full truth about Rachel's role. How will he react, knowing his niece nearly took his life? Will he forgive Kristen for lying to him? Or will this deepen the already fractured DiMera family bonds? Then there is Rachel herself. As she grows older, the truth will be harder to keep hidden. Secrets in Salem always find their way into the light, and when Rachel eventually learns the whole story, the consequences could be explosive. Kristen's choice to protect her daughter now might create even greater pain later. The fan debate. Among fans, the storyline has sparked passionate debate. Some argue Kristen's confession proves she has finally embraced her role as a mother, willing to sacrifice everything for Rachel's well-being. Others see it as yet another manipulation, Kristen twisting the truth to suit her needs and keep herself at the center of Salem's drama. Regardless of which side you take, there is no denying that Kristen remains one of the most talked about figures on Days of Our Lives. Her decisions, whether noble or devious, always carry ripple effects that spread far beyond her own life. Final thoughts. So, will Kristen DiMera truly leave Salem? All signs point to no. While her confession and subsequent jail time might suggest an exit, the reality is quite different. Kristen's story is still unfolding, and actress Stacy Haidouk is here to stay. The DiMera legacy depends on characters like Kristen, characters who keep audiences guessing, gasping, and coming back for more.